Welcome everyone to our latest Wandering Walks adventure. This time we're headed to Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. Washington University is a private research university with its main campus in St. Louis, Missouri. It was founded in 1853 and named after our first president of the United States, George Washington. The university's Danforth Campus, which we'll be walking through today, is at the center of Washington University and is the academic home to the majority of the university's undergraduate, graduate, and professional students. The Danforth Campus features predominantly collegiate Gothic architecture in its academic buildings. It is bordered by Forest Park and the city of St. Louis. Washington University has students and faculty from all 50 United States and more than 120 different countries. The university is composed of 7 graduate and undergraduate schools that encompass a broad range of academic fields. The first building that we see on this tour is McMillan Hall. This is Washington University's signature building. The cornerstone for Brookings, then called University Hall, was laid on November 3rd, 1900, and was completed in 1902. Point of fact, it was leased to the Louisiana Purchase Exposition Company for the 1904 World's Fair that was held in St. Louis. Washington University was conceived by 17 St. Louis business, political, and religious leaders. They were concerned by the lack of institutions of higher learning in the Midwest. Missouri State Senator Wayman Crowe and Unitarian minister William Greenleaf Eliot, who was the grandfather of poet T.S. Eliot, led the effort to establish Washington University. The university's first chancellor was Joseph Gibson Hoyt. During the first 3 years following the creation of the university bore 3 different names. The board first approved Eliot Seminary, but William Eliot, one of the founders of the college, was uncomfortable with naming a university after himself and objected to the establishment of a seminary which would implicitly be charged with teaching a religious faith. He favored a non-sectarian university. In 1854, the Board of Trustees changed the name to Washington Institute in honor of George Washington, and because the charter for the school was coincidentally passed on Washington's birthday, February 22nd. In 1856, the university amended its name to Washington University. We're now walking past the Ann W. Olin Women's Building. Opened in 1928 and renamed the Ann Whitney Olin Williams Building in 1979, the Women's Building was the result of a grassroots efforts by female students to erect a meeting place for the university's sororities. Students played an important role in the building campaign, and pledges came from the student body, alumni, women's group, and friends of the university. Ahead of us is McMillan Hall. Opened in 1907, McMillan Hall was the first and for many years the only women's dormitory on campus. The architects were the Philadelphia firm Cope and Stewartson, represented by James P. Jameson. With the coming of the first South 40 residence halls in the 1950s and early 1960s, McMillan Hall was remodeled to meet space need for classes and departments. On our right is AnheuserBusch Hall. This particular building began construction in 1955 or 1995 and became the new home of School of Law in 1997. The building was formally dedicated September 26, 1997. Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor was the principal speaker at the dedication ceremony. This particular building is made of Missouri red granite and is in the campus's traditional collegiate Gothic style. Although chartered as a university, for many years Washington University functioned primarily as a night school located in the downtown area in the heart of St. Louis. Because there were financial limitations, Washington University initially used public buildings downtown. Classes began October 22nd, 1854 at the Benton School Building. At first, the university paid for the evening classes, but as the popularity grew, their funding was transferred to the St. Louis Public Schools. Eventually, the board secured funds for construction of Academic Hall that we saw earlier on the walk and several dozen other buildings in this area of St. Louis. In 1867, the university opened the first private non-sectarian law school west of the Mississippi River. By 1882, Washington University had expanded to numerous departments, which were housed in various buildings across St. Louis. Ahead of us is Francis Gymnasium. Francis Gym was finished in 1903 by the Olympic Games Committee and was one of the buildings used in the third modern Olympic Games. These were the first Olympics held in the Western Hemisphere. After the Games, the committee turned the gym over to Washington University to be used as part of the athletics department. The athletic field that we see in front of us is called Francis Olympic Field. It is a stadium at Washington University in St. Louis, and it was the main venue for the 1904 Summer Olympics. It's currently used by the university's track and field, cross country, football, and soccer teams. The stadium once had a 19,000 person seat capacity, but stadium renovations in 1984 reduced the capacity to about 3,300 people. It is one of the oldest sports venues west of the Mississippi River that is still in use. Known at its opening as the World's Fair Stadium and then as Washington University Stadium, or now simply known as the Stadium, the venue was renamed as Francis Field in 1907 for David R. Francis, a former Missouri governor and president of the Louisiana Purchase Exposition, which was the St. Louis World's Fair. The word Olympic was added in 2019 to reflect its role in the 1904 Summer Olympics. Those 1904 Summer Olympics were the first to be held in the Western Hemisphere and were given to St. Louis as a result of the efforts of David Roland Francis, for whom the stadium and accompanying gymnasium are made. Built in 1902, Francis Olympic Field's permanent stands represent one of the first applications of reinforcement concrete technology used in the world. During the 1904 Games, the stadium hosted the archery, athletics, cycling, football, gymnastics, lacrosse, tug-of-war, weightlifting, and wrestling events. The tennis events took place at some dirt courts located outside the stadium. Following the 1904 Olympics, the stadium became the permanent home of the Washington University Bears. Ahead of us is Graham Chapel. Graham Chapel was named for Benjamin Brown Graham. The chapel was given to the university by his widow, Christine Blair Graham, as a memorial to him. Dedicated in 1909, Graham Chapel is used for concerts, plays, and the university's weekly lecture program. Ahead of us is a combination building, the one with the rounded turret at the top. This is the Stephen Ridgely Hall and the Mary Brooks Holmes Lounge. The cornerstone for these buildings were laid on October 20th, 1900. This building was leased to the Louisiana Purchase Exposition Company for use during the 1904 World's Fair. It was also known as the Hall of International Congress during the World's Fair, with the second floor used by the British government for a magnificent display of Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee gifts. As we wind up our walk at Washington University in St. Louis, we'll see several buildings here in front of us. These are newer additions to the building. Several are classrooms, libraries, various research centers, as well as over here on the right, the Mildred Lane Museum of Art. There's a constant ongoing construction effort that's taken place at Washington University. In fact, over the course of several years, $1 billion or more dollars are going to be spent on new buildings and renovations to existing buildings. I have hope you've enjoyed this Wandering Walk campus tour of the Washington University in St. Louis. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on our next Wandering Walk. Thanks. Bye.